who is in the Ohio State backfield right now is interesting to me because it seems as though I don't want to say they're force feeding Travion Henderson, but they certainly believe that he's the guy. Uh, there's a couple backs we still have yet to see at all. And what do you guys think about the running back distribution? Because I just think that it's obviously become more critical if the offensive line is not going to move people out of the way in terms of vision, finding where that crease could be, even if it's not the intended crease or hole, and then also just barreling people over if that's what Mayan Williams does better than anybody else.
Yeah, the whole thing's weird. Travion Henderson is the starter. He got 5 carries last week, but was for 56 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mayan Williams got like 6 carries and also caught a pass. Chip Trianum was the star of the Indiana game, but then he got in there against Youngstown State and really didn't do much, averaged like 3 yards a carry or something on 6 carries. Dallin Hayden didn't play. Evan Pryor didn't play. And you would have figured against Youngstown State, those guys would have gotten to play. Coach Day continues to rail about the shortened game syndrome here with these new clock rules. And, you know, he can do one of two things. He can continue to complain about the clock rules, or he can do something about it, which is go a little faster tempo with his offense and try and get more plays for them on offense and, sustain drives with third down conversions and stop the other team on third down. I think those are all things that he can do from their end, do better perhaps to get a bigger number of plays for Ohio State. So I think all that's in play. And, they've got great backs. They've got a number of them. It's just figuring out how to use them.
Yeah, to Steve's point, and it was the first thing that came to my mind. Who cares how fast you go if you can't convert third down? I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, that's just how much quicker you're giving the ball back to the other team. They have got to be better on third down. Their third down offense is horrendous. And for past several years, I mean, Ohio State's been among the best in the nation on third down conversions. And this year it's brutal. So if you want to sit there and be able to have the opportunity to run 10 more plays, 12 more plays, convert some third downs. I mean, that's what you've got to do. And because the reality is if you're only getting 60 offensive plays, you're not going to get to your fourth back. You're not going to get to your fifth back. Hell, your number 3 receiver might not get targeted all that much. There's just not a lot of plays to be had, but that comes down to execution, and that goes down to prolonging drives, and Ohio State has not been able to prolong drives, period. And until that happens, any discussion of getting second and third teamers in really is moot to me, because Ohio State has to be able to run more plays. And I'm not putting it on the clock. I'm putting it on Ohio State not being able to keep these drives going.
Yeah, and with the new center and a new starting quarterback, it's harder to run tempo effectively, or at least that's what Ohio State is thinking. And I think they've run less and less tempo over the years anyway. They've kind of gotten away from that as a thing that they love to do as they grow more and more in love with the get to the line and look over for an adjustment. But I do think at some point you have to adjust or just accept it. And I hear people saying that Ryan Day needs to just stop talking about the clock. And I have to remind people he's being asked about it. So, that's why he's talking about it. It's not like this is, he's being asked about the quarterbacks and he's like, well, another thing, let me talk about the clock rule. He is being asked about it. It will stop being asked about because we eventually, as the media, will move on to something else, and so the first couple of weeks it's been about the clock. And honestly, I don't think it's the clock. The clock is taking away possessions, but it's taking away the possessions that Ohio State would normally run out the clock with anyway, so they're getting 10 possessions a game right now. They would get up between 12 and 15 per game over the past 5-6 years. And those last 3 possessions generally are just handing the ball off to DeMario McCall up the middle, that sort of thing. And that doesn't cost you any points. Right now, it's the execution, it's the effectiveness, it's third downs where they're dead last in the Big Ten right now in converting third downs. Obviously, if you fix that, that's great. I saw somebody else mention that the defense needs to get off the field. That is true, but they gave up 12 first downs against Youngstown State. If you go back, I went back and looked. The last 8 times Ohio State's defense has given up exactly 12 first downs. The opposing team had the ball for 26 minutes. They had it for 34. Youngstown State had it for 34 minutes with 12 first downs, to give you an idea of the kind of impact the clock rule is having.
I wonder what the points per game figure was on that that number of games for Ohio State.